On May 8, 2026, the United States government did something it had refused to do for 80 years. It opened the files. More than 160 classified documents, cases dating back to 1947, were released to the public on a government website. No clearance required, no appointment, just the raw, unfiltered record of 8 decades of encounters that the most powerful military on Earth could not explain. The assumption was simple. When the files came out, we would finally get the answer. Either these objects are real and extraordinary, or they are not. Either the government knew something, or it didn't. Either 80 years of secrecy was justified, or it was the largest institutional deception in modern history. But here is what the files actually show. Not one answer, not one clean explanation. Instead, 400 documented incidents across 6 decades, from farmers in California to Navy pilots over the Pacific, from Apollo astronauts in orbit to security officers guarding nuclear weapons, and every single case stamped with the same 2 words: unresolved, unknown. The government spent 80 years telling the public there was nothing to see. Then it spent 80 years collecting evidence of exactly what it said didn't exist. Both things cannot be true, and yet both are in the files. The program releasing these files is called PURSUE, the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP encounters. It was ordered by President Trump in February 2026, following a directive to identify and release government files related to, quote, alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and unidentified flying objects. The first batch dropped May 8th. More tranches are promised every few weeks. What's inside is not what most people expected. There are no photographs of alien bodies, no smoking gun, no single document that ends the debate. What there is something more unsettling. There are 400 incidents across 6 decades, documented by credible witnesses: military pilots, commercial airline captains, NASA astronauts, FBI agents, and nuclear security officers. Witnesses who had everything to lose by coming forward. Witnesses who reported the same objects, the same behaviors, the same impossible physics, independently, across different decades, different continents, different branches of the military. That is not coincidence. That is a pattern. This is not just about whether aliens exist. This is about whether the United States government systematically concealed a national security threat from its own people for 80 consecutive years. That changes what this story actually is. The files released in May 2026 are the first official acknowledgement that the United States government has been tracking unidentified objects since 1947, not investigating them, not explaining them, tracking them, collecting reports, filing them, stamping them unresolved, and then locking them away. For 80 years, anyone who reported seeing one of these objects was dismissed. Pilots were sent to psychiatrists. Security officers were told to forget what they saw. Astronauts had their transmissions quietly noted and filed. The official position was always the same: there is nothing here worth investigating. But the files tell a different story. And the moment you read them, the moment you see the dates, the locations, the credentials of the witnesses, and the consistency of what they reported, one question becomes impossible to avoid. If there was nothing here, why did they keep every single report? The detail most people miss about these witnesses is not what they saw. It's what they had to lose. A Navy admiral, a Marine recon officer, a 747 captain with 39,000 flight hours. Omar Lara was an enlisted sailor on the Nimitz in November 2004. He was on the deck during a man-overboard drill when an object dropped from the sky at what he described as incredible speed and stopped 100 feet above the waterline on a dime. Then it accelerated to the right and disappeared without a sonic boom. Lara had 10 years in the United States Navy. He had seen aircraft. He had seen missiles. He had seen everything the most advanced military in the world operates. And his conclusion was direct: I do not believe what I saw was made on this planet. Now consider this. The Nimitz incident happened in 2004. The Theodore Roosevelt encounters happened in 2015, 11 years apart. Different ships, different crews, different oceans, same objects, same behaviors, same physics-defying characteristics: instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic velocity, no propulsion signature, no sonic boom. The detail most people miss is that this is not a series of isolated incidents. This is a consistent, repeating, documented pattern spanning at minimum 2 decades of active U.S. Navy operations. And it's not just the Navy. Commercial airline pilots are reporting the same objects. A 747 captain with 36 years of experience, a pilot flying from Dallas to Louisville, a Pan American crew over Nova Scotia. The sky is full of something, and no one in authority will say what. And the witnesses and the congressional testimony, that's only half the story, because buried inside the newly released files is a pattern that the government has never directly addressed. These objects don't just appear anywhere, they appear in one specific place, every time. Ryan Graves, a former Navy lieutenant who flew F/A-18S off the Theodore Roosevelt, estimates that 95% of UAP sightings by military pilots go unreported. Not because pilots don't see them, because the system punishes those who do. Pilots were sent to psychiatrists, careers were derailed, emails were wiped, reports were buried. Richard Haynes, a senior NASA research scientist who spent 21 years at the agency and worked on the Gemini and Apollo programs, spent years collecting pilot testimony. He sent his findings to the U.S. government, to every major airline, to aviation authorities. He received 0 responses, not one. The point of no return in this story is not the 2026 document release. The point of no return is the realization that the suppression of this information was not accidental. It was systematic, it was deliberate, and it lasted 80 years. The files are not a revelation, they are a confirmation that the witnesses were right, that the pattern was real, that the phenomenon, whatever it is, has been present in our skies, near our weapons, and in our orbit for longer than most people alive today have been breathing. The question was never whether they were real. The question was always, what are we going to do about it? 80 years of files, 400 unresolved cases. One conclusion the government will not put in writing. The truth was never classified. The decision to hide it was. And now, for the first time, you've seen both. We started this video with a farmer in California who watched something hover over his house in 1947 and filed a report that no one was supposed to see. 79 years later, that report is public, and it reads exactly the way he said it would. That is what 80 years of institutional silence actually looks like when it ends. Not a press conference, not an admission, just a filing cabinet, finally opened, and a man who was right all along, finally proven so. If this analysis changed how you see what governments actually know and what they choose to tell us, hit like. It tells us this kind of depth is worth making. Subscribe and turn on the bell, because the next video goes even deeper.